welcome to Foxon Media Digital. My name is Okako. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Elliott Johnson, Chief Investment Officer and Chief Operating Officer at Evolve ETFs. Hi, Elliott. It's a pleasure to have you on our channel.
Hi, Okako. It's nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. So let's jump right in. As one of the early adopters of crypto-related ETFs, how do you see digital asset ETFs evolving in Canada, and what role do they play in the broader investment portfolio?
Yeah, thanks. We're very excited about the opportunity that crypto ETFs have provided for investors in Canada. And because they're ETFs, they're really covering all the major investor constituents: retail, do-it-yourself, advisors, and institutions. And so what we see is these products are a way for investors to use crypto assets without having to go through all of the difficulty around opening an account with a crypto exchange or dealing with their own crypto wallet, keys, and all the technology that goes into that. So we really think these products have provided a great service for Canadian investors in the 3 years since they launched back in 2021. And certainly their adoption and their use and their liquidity has proven that out. We've seen large flows into these products, a lot of trading activity over the years. And then recently this year, the US market has been able to get similar products launched in the United States. And in most cases, those products are pretty much a photocopy of what we have here in Canada in terms of how they operate and the features that those products have. So definitely feel like the market was ready for Bitcoin ETF and Ether ETFs. And with our EBIT fund, we were one of the first for Bitcoin, and our Ether fund, we were the first for Ether. And what's happened over that period of time is the conversations with investors have really developed as people's interest and knowledge around the asset class has developed over that period of time.
How has investor sentiment towards crypto assets evolved post 2021 volatility? And what are the current conversations with institutional investors like?
Yeah, so what I often talk about is the journey that we've been on as it relates to crypto asset ETFs. So since the start of our business in 2017, we were actually the first to file for a Bitcoin tracking ETF back in 2017. We weren't able to get regulatory approval until February of 2021 when our fund launched, but we've been in the market with the first filing and talking to investors all the way back then. So really for the past 7 years. And then obviously since we launched our fund, the past 3 years, we've actually had a product, and the conversations have been obviously a lot more meaningful as you start to talk to people who are using these funds in their portfolios. And what's really changed over that period of time is that back in 2017, when you talked to investors, institutional investors or family offices or large advisors, what you heard back in 2017 was, I can't look at crypto assets. There's a lot of career risk for me to look into crypto assets and talk about crypto assets. When you move to where we were in 2021, when our Bitcoin fund launched, the conversation had shifted to, I need to know about crypto assets. I have too much career risk if I don't know about them. And I think what's happened over the past 3 years, and especially this year, with additional regulatory clarity around the world, again, with the US ETFs, is the conversation is shifting again to people saying, I need to be allocated to these funds. I need to have an allocation to Bitcoin in my portfolio. It's now something that I can't be ignoring. I can't be saying that asset class is something that I'm not dealing with, something that I'm not talking about. And that is coming from two things. I think it's coming from, again, over time, the level of education around Bitcoin and Ether, the investment case for these assets has continued to improve and become more widespread. But it's also coming from investors and the clients of advisors who are going to them and saying, what are we doing about Bitcoin in my portfolio? Why don't I have any? And advisors don't want to have no answer to that question, because if they don't have an answer and they can't have that conversation, then those investors are going to take some of their capital and open their own accounts at a digital exchange, to get their own allocation, and then that allocation is not really a part of their broader financial plan. So I think advisors are looking at these products as an important way to provide the service that they need to their clients. Clients want to work with their advisors for this. Everybody's been moving along the adoption curve in terms of the use of these products, but we're still very early because I would say for the most part, it's still in the stages of how do I use these products? What role do they play in the portfolio? What allocation should I have to these products in my portfolio? Rather than people saying, well, I've held them for years. I understand the volatility. I understand how big my position should be and so on. So it's a journey, but the journey is now taking the form of people allocating and monitoring. And what we're doing at Evolve is we're really trying to help advisors have those conversations. We're trying to provide them with materials, with support from us in terms of webinars and other services that we can provide to facilitate the education process that's really sweeping across the industry today.
What role do you see cryptocurrencies and digital assets playing in a long-term investment strategy? And are they more of a hedge or growth opportunity or something else?
I think different crypto assets are going to provide different elements to a portfolio. And if we could just talk about Bitcoin and Ether, because those are the two assets which we have ETFs available in Canada, they're not doing the same thing. And this year we've really seen that. The price of Bitcoin has very much outperformed the price of Ether. They're both positive on the year, but by quite different amounts. And it has to do with the investment case for the two different digital assets. And so very quickly and simply put, Bitcoin is being viewed increasingly as a long-term store of value. Despite its volatility, people are thinking about it as digital gold, and they're saying this is a limited supply. As adoption increases, there's going to be increasing amounts of store of value in this, and therefore it's the combination of the network effect combined with the hard money aspect of Bitcoin that makes an investment case. And people really understand that today after the inflation shock that we've experienced over the past 24 months, where people are no longer saying the Canadian dollar is a great store of value. They know that that's not true. Therefore, they know they need to go into investment assets. The bond market, unfortunately, was not a great place to be over the past 2 years, with interest rates increasing, which caused the bond market to substantially underperform and disappoint people who were looking for low volatility and a good, safe place to put capital to work. And so people are looking at what else is available. And yes, there's volatility in digital assets, but if you look at the long term, if you hold Bitcoin over any 4-year period, you've always had good positive returns.
So looking forward, what are the key factors that will determine whether cryptocurrencies and digital assets become a mainstream part of asset management in Canada?
I think it's going to be a story of global adoption of these assets. I think that the overall trend of crypto assets being adopted with projects like stablecoins, with store of value arguments like Bitcoin has, and other elements of decentralized finance, we're going to incrementally continue to go in that direction. As we do, investors are going to continue to need access to these crypto assets within traditional portfolios. And that's where ETFs like ours really play the role of bringing people from their brokerage account, from their investment advisor, into decentralized finance and digital assets. But at the end of the day, you can only believe in a dream for so long before you need to see real world projects. And so the place that I would sometimes say is people should think about is that crypto assets to me are a little bit like the early World Wide Web back in the late 1990s. There's a lot of websites back then. Some of them didn't make it, but those that did really, really did well. And so for, the many examples of websites like pets.com, there was the example of amazon.com. And what you really want to do is say, okay, how do I get exposed to this sector? We think Ethereum is a great way to get exposed to that, because Ethereum is almost like buying the technology that made websites back then. And obviously the web became a huge thing, even if a lot of the early companies were not necessarily successful. And so those are the trends that are driving digital assets. And if I could just add to the analogy of looking back at technology trends over time, just to give a sense of how fast this could happen. People of my vintage remember the first BlackBerry, and they then remember their first iPhone, and the speed at which they went from email on their desktop to then almost a full-fledged computer in their hand. It probably over that period of time was something like 7 years, but that 7 years transformed what was possible. And then it was another sort of 3 to 5 years after that that we then ended up with Uber, and we ended up with these smartphone only businesses that grew out of the ability of everybody to access the internet while they're on the go. And so it's very easy to underestimate the impact that having permissionless, decentralized assets that are internet native, available for everybody in the world, that can be a transformative trend. So we continue to believe that that's the future. We really think that that's where we're going. We don't know what the world looks like when we get there, but we think it's a brighter place because I think it's going to cause there to be a lot more ability for everybody in the world to participate.
Lastly, what are you looking forward to at TSAM Toronto 2024?
Well, obviously, I'm looking forward to the crypto panel because it's where, you know, I think my strongest interest is within investing. But the other thing too is I really enjoy the networking that comes with the event. So many great people from across our industry getting together in a venue that we don't always meet each other at. I think it serves a great role for reconnecting with people, updating people on where our businesses have gone in the past year, sharing, you know, common challenges, and then listening to all the other panelists and all the other discussions, talking about issues that affect everybody. So I think it's a great event. I think people should definitely be going to it as a way to connect into the asset management differences that might be specific on one subject. I think this conference does a great job of covering the entire industry. Happy to be going back again this year.
Thank you, Elliott. It was a pleasure to have you on our channel.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Be sure to follow our YouTube channel for more content on all the latest opportunities and challenges in asset management, wealth management, and ESG. And don't forget to give this interview a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button.